Good morning, Molly.
Good morning, Elizabeth. It
So, if you're here, we're talking about MST, so military sexual trauma. So, we're veteran spouses here to talk to you about, um, you know, MST and military sexual trauma and how it relates to the VA as far as claims go, and just to kind of dig into that situation, that scenario.
but yeah, my husband is in the elite membership, and I saw VA Claims Insider work firsthand. I saw it work for him, and he found Brian on YouTube, like a lot of people do, and just the passion that Brian had. One made him want to join VACI, but then me, when I saw results, from the outside perspective, I was like, man, I want to be a part of this. I know that there are other veterans out here, just like my husband, struggling with this, and I want to be a part of it.
I'm an Army veteran. I am an Army brat and grew up to follow in my father's footsteps. I joined the military when I was 17, spent my whole adult life in the military. And most of it was in the AGR program in the National Guard, the Army National Guard. I think that's the best kept secret in the military because you get all the benefits of active duty, but you get to kind of grow some roots if that's your wish, which has been really good for me and my family. And transitioning after serving my whole life essentially, I was really nervous and it was a very scary thing for me. So I was blessed to find Brian Reese and the VA Claims Insider family. This topic specifically is very near and dear to my heart because I'm rated for PTSD due to MSD, and I don't even like talking about it, as most of you well know why. But I've found that there's been some healing in being able to share this so that it can help others. So, just to kind of get rolling, the VA defines MST, military sexual trauma, as a sexual assault or sexual harassment experienced during military service. Veterans of all genders and from all types of backgrounds can and have experienced military sexual trauma. Now, remember, this process is very, very difficult for survivors, and it can take months, sometimes years, to adjudicate these claims. It's a very difficult process, and opening it up can be like reliving the trauma over and over and over again. And it can absolutely take toll on your relationships, not just intimate relationships with a spouse or a partner, but also your relationships with your children or your friends or your coworkers. So prepare yourself for that to happen. Have resources in place to help you through this process as well. So, if you've been out of therapy for a while, it might be a good time to start talking to someone again, or at least have something positive in your life to look forward to help balance those things out. We always advise people to seek treatment.
Being ready to pursue a PTSD MST claim is huge as well. And if you're not ready, then that's okay. You have to be ready and willing to speak to your symptoms and really dig into it, like Elizabeth said. And you might be eligible for another condition that we could help you go after if you're not ready. We are here when you are ready to pursue a PTSD MST claim or your knees, like what, either or. It doesn't have to be an either or, it can be kind of an all. Let's get your feet wet in the process, get some education, and go from there. All right, so some facts and myths. MST is filed as its own claim, so this is actually false. PTSD due to MST is actually one of the PTSD claims.
It doesn't matter really what the diagnosis is because MST is not a diagnosis for mental health. You can have anxiety disorder because of military sexual trauma. You can have major depressive disorder as a result of it. It's not always PTSD, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be PTSD. That goes for all mental health claims. It doesn't have to be PTSD. It can be as simple as generalized anxiety disorder. So don't get too hung up on filing an MST claim or filing PTSD. Think about it as an overarching mental health claim because you're experiencing these symptoms.
And then another one is MST is an easy claim to win. So this, unfortunately, is false. I would say no claim is easy to win, and that's why we want to implement that strategy, and make sure that it is a fully developed claim, and that's what we can help you with.
And it is an emotional process. And you have to dig in to so many different people and tell your story so many different times. It's exhausting. It's brutal.
But the payoff at the end can be very positive, both emotionally and financially, with that
Mhm.
compensation that you deserve, but also it can be therapeutic.
You do get that sense when these claims are adjudicated properly. You also feel defeated if they're not. You feel almost worse than when it happened if they deny it.
Mhm.
But don't ever stop fighting.
The only way the VA wins is if you quit. So
Absolutely.
keep fighting for what you deserve, because you do. You deserve it. And if no one has told you that yet, Elizabeth and I, by the end of this live, will have instilled it in you numerous times. And then this one too, you need all the markers. You don't need all the markers. So when we go through this list, just remember that in the back of your mind. Okay, I don't need all of these, but if I have a couple of them, and then we'll go into the proving the markers, that can be helpful as well.
Markers are identified in M21-1. That's the guide that the VA raters use to adjudicate claims. And some of the markers are like increased use or abuse of leave without an apparent reason, such as family obligations or family illnesses. What that means is, um, let's say shortly after the incident, you just started blowing all your leave. Or maybe you went AWOL a few times and came back. Those are absolutely markers. Episodes of depression, panic attacks, or anxiety without identifiable reasons. You know the reason, but people around you probably don't. It might be described in an NCOER, that's on the Army side, so an evaluation report. It might be described in a counseling statement, um, erratic behavior, things of that nature. So those changes in your mood and your personality can be used as markers. Visits to medical or counseling clinics or a dispensary without a specific diagnosis or ailment, those are also um, markers. Use of or increased interest in pregnancy tests or testing for STDs. HIV specifically is one that people will go and get tested for after this, or they recommend you're tested for if you tell a medical provider in confidence. Sudden requests that the your MOS or your duty station be changed without any justification. I know when I reported mine, I requested a change of duty station. I also requested, I just wanted to get some counseling. I was like, I'll be fine. I got this. You suck it up and you drive on. So I was like, I just need this so that I can get to outside counseling. I don't want to go through the clinic on post. I want this to be separate because in your brain, when they're together and they're connected, there's no trust. The trust is very severely damaged when MST occurs. And so I just wanted to talk to someone outside of that space.
Yeah, and that can be for performance evaluations as well. If there's a sudden change, if you are, get sailor of the year, and then the MST, and then maybe your performance, both physically, both at your job. We all know there's tons of performance markers, and everything should be documented. So that can be a huge marker. Increased or decreased use of prescription medication. So if you have an increase, if you already have anxiety or are already on an anxiety medication, and you start taking more of it, whether prescribed or not, that can be a huge marker. Or just stopping taking medication. What's the point if this medication is not going to help? Then why take it? Is what a lot of veterans oftentimes feel. Increased use of over-the-counter medication, whatever that might be. And then alcohol or drug abuse, to try and help cope, or suppress the what's happened and the emotions and the symptoms just so you can function. And that goes for, if you got in trouble, for alcohol, whether you're underage or whether it's a DUI. Increased disregard for military or civilian authority. Again, if you got in trouble for one reason or another, that can definitely be a marker, especially if it has been out of character, in previous. If you have been that sailor of the year and then there's a sudden change, that can definitely be a marker. Obsessive behavior such as overeating or undereating. So again, if you have been, at the same height and weight for months and months and months or your whole career, and then that suddenly changes, all of that, you all know how often, PT, you're getting measurements and everything. So that can be documented and you can see a pattern. Unexplained economic or social behavior changes, as well as treatment for physical injuries around the same time of the claimed trauma, but not reported as a result of the trauma. So you don't necessarily have to come out and say that the injury was from the trauma. It can, due to other markers, it can kind of be inferred and proven that way. And then the breakup of a primary relationship. We all know the divorce rates in the military, unfortunately, for one reason or another. But this can also be a marker if you have been in, a relationship and that relationship suddenly ends, and the aftermath of that as well.
Also, you guys, these are not the all-encompassing list of markers. This is just what's outlined in the M21-1. There are other things that you can use as markers. Proof is the most important piece. So being able to prove some of these markers, a divorce certificate, doctor's visits, DUI, legal documents, if you were underage at the time, maybe a minor in consumption or a minor in possession charge, an Article 15, anything like that that you can use as proof is going to be very helpful. Faculty members, chaplains, clergy members, fellow service members, those can also be done in personal statements. You want to be really careful with personal statements, buddy letters, because you don't want someone who's not qualified to try and diagnose you and say, oh, she for sure, he for sure has PTSD from MST. What they need is to attest to what this person saw, felt, heard, experienced, um, in reference to you at the time that this happened.
And we have a lot of resources into buddy letters, personal lay statements, blog posts. I know that I am constant. I don't know about you, Elizabeth, but I do call her the resource queen. So a lot of my resources do come from her. But, the blog, I'm always sending my veterans, the link to the blog.
Speaking of the blog, they posted a link and you can go there and get a lot of this great information as well. But some of the other things you can use, ER and medical records. If you went to the emergency room after an incident, or a crisis center or a center for domestic abuse, because you guys, this isn't just between service members. It can be between spouses, and um, if it happens while you're on active duty, then that's a justifiable claim as well. And personal diaries and journals too. I know that's not as common anymore, with Snapchat and Instagram and things like that. But in light of those shifts, sometimes our social media habits change when our moods change. So you can use that as evidence as well. Like, look, I was super active, I was experiencing life and enjoying things, and then look, I went dark. There's absolutely no mention of anything because I went into this space because this happened. So those are just some examples of proof you can use, and submit in support of a claim for mental health because of MST or military sexual trauma. We've got some resources. So you can go to va.gov and type in MST. They will come up with the trauma resources for women's health. They will come up with mental health, MST general fact sheets. There's also homeless resources for military sexual trauma and things like that, because that's one of the common factors with MST is veteran homelessness, female veteran homelessness especially. So um, go to va.gov, utilize those resources if you need. Our blog post is excellent and has links to those, and you can get a lot of that information. There's that post again. Thank you. The other piece of this is the CNP prep, because you will go in more than likely and have a CNP exam for mental health due to this. And it's brutal. My experience was not good. And I had the resources and the knowledge because of VA Claims Insider to report it immediately and got the results that I deserved. So I do believe in what we do and how we do it, and the education that we provide for our veterans. And I'm really glad that we have this forum to get this information out to you as well. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening to us talk about military sexual trauma and the intricacies of it as far as VA claims are concerned. Again, if you have more questions, reach out, join us. And for the women on the call, we do have a special Women's Wednesday group that meets every other Wednesday, and we dig into this stuff even deeper. Sometimes it's lighter, sometimes it's heavy, but we're there for each other, and we talk each other through and walk each other through. So it's a community, because we do love that this is what we get to do and love that we get to serve other veterans. So we'd
Yeah.
love for you to join us. Thank you for joining us here today. We appreciate your time. I know there are other things you could be doing. Thank you for spending it with us.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day and take care.
Bye bye.